I met through his campaign, I thought we'd been hugely magnanimous about saying, well, you know, clean start, new person, let's give him a chance. And I'm very cynical, I put the cards on the table straight away. But I thought, well, if that's how people feel about it, then we must try, because we all want a solution. Yeah, we don't want to go back to the last thing at night and the first thing in the morning that you think of, seeing friends beaten up, seeing trees felled unnecessarily, and you know, like seeing community cohesion break down, and it's been 2.5 years of absolute bloody misery, to be quite frank, for lots of residents around this area. And I don't want to go back to that.
Sorry, I was just going to say, because that was there's an awful lot of people in North making your job very difficult. Yes. Obviously, it's limited what you can say about that, we understand that. But I actually have great sympathy for you, because no matter what your great intentions are, we don't know how successful you can actually be in persuading the other members of the team. Because I think that's what you were alluding to.
Yes.
The fact that there's still some very negative comments coming out. And each time I think, this is scuppering your effort.
I mean, are we talking to somebody who can make a difference?
Well, I'll come in when you want me to.
on a specific then, I think one of the things that's, since you've been in the job, is the injunction case that we just had, and one of our people has been cleared today. A couple of people were convicted. I think on a personal level, going forward, saying that we won't be trying to prosecute and imprison and break people financially in the High Court would be a great step forward. It wouldn't solve the issue by a long way, but it'd be a really good starting point to say we will no longer be dragging people to court at the cost of huge financial penalties. So do you think that, have we seen the last injunction, do you think?
Yeah, they're just papers on
Thank you.
Okay, I'll jump in at that point then. Okay, I think these are fair questions.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't intend, well, I don't expect to win people round on the trust question overnight. I don't expect to have done it in the first 6 weeks. This is going to take years for us to rebuild.
That's interesting. Do you think you'll be in position for 3 years? as you know, the injunction is being extended by 3 years.
Well, I've accepted a position for
as you know, 3 years. You're going to be trying to send people to prison for 3 years. So this is part of your compromise.
So was that your decision, or was that Julie Dawes' decision, or was it some faceless officer in the council? Whose was it?
The decision is...
Yeah, you were saying before that it wasn't yours, it wasn't council decision, council orders decision.
Yeah. So the decision is the decision of the Director of Legal Governance on behalf of the council.
And he doesn't get
so that's
a
not a political decision.
He doesn't get a wink or a nod from Julie Dawes.
So in the process of a policy around the injunction, with this decision to renew...
How many trees will you be felling in 3 years, do you think? Why do you need the injunction for 3 years? It suggests that you're carrying out a mass felling programme, and you need the backing of a High Court injunction to prevent peaceful protesters from stopping them.
That's why I extend it.
Do you see the problem we have with rebuilding trust?
Yeah, and so this is something we have to surmount.
We'll be founding it, don't worry.
Yeah. So I don't know, and one of the reasons I want to come out at this point is I don't know what's going to happen next week for us. So just to, and I'll try and pick up on these points and just sort of cap off my little intro. At this point, I don't know, and I'm coming out to you saying I don't know.
Are you in the meetings with Amy and people now? Because we know that they are meeting.
Well, they're doing preliminary work. And I will be.
They're holding meetings in the town hall, aren't they, regularly?
Well, on many issues.
Billington and Amy and
we've
the
not received
people still involved.
Well, we've not received proposals yet from Amy. So the process that we've got now is we've got the pause. Pause is continuing indefinitely until we can.
So what's this about then?
Well, that's
3 years of sending people to prison for a pause.
Well, that's because.
So when's this starting again? Next week? Next month? Next year?
Have you got more questions? I can answer them.
Well, I've got prison because you people are trying to send me to prison.
Well, I don't think they are, because
I can assure you they are. I've been in the High Court and faced it. It's all right for you to tell me you're an environmental socialist, but I'm the one that's been tried to send to prison by your colleagues, and by definition, you. Because you never said anything at the time, did you? I could have gone to prison for what I did, and so could those gentlemen and ladies this week.
Yeah.
And Mr. Brooke could have gone to prison for what he did. So it's all right to be blasé. I am going to give you the chance to do, but you're being blasé about people who could have been locked up tonight.
Can I read this, Carol? Because I think it would be useful to... Are you okay with me reading it, bits of it?
Right.
So it says that you're one of the named defendants, and that the current injunction expires on the 25th of July of this year. And then it says, in view of your involvement in this matter, it will be appropriate for the council to proceed against you on this new application, unless you're willing to give an undertaking to the High Court to hearing the terms attached to this letter. If you do provide such an undertaking, the council will not seek legal costs.
That's good.
So I mean, that's the position we're in, which is that
it's the position you're in.
The present injunction expires in July, and so the council.
But don't you think, in terms of compromise, not extending that injunction would be a really good start?
That's what we found really
it's in your name, this. It might not have your name on the letter, but you're the person responsible for this department.
Well, I think we're, as you say, we're collectively responsible for those of us elected to council working within the council's constitution. Are collectively responsible for the decision the council makes. Look, we're not in a position yet where we found the compromise.
You've decided what you're going to do.
Yeah.
There isn't going to be a compromise. You've decided that for the next 3 years, you are going to be overseeing the felling of healthy trees in Sheffield and trying to imprison people for peacefully protesting, including Labour Party members and Labour Party voters. You say you're an environmental socialist. I'm an environmental socialist. So why are you on that side of the line and I'm on this side?
Lewis, as a Labour Party member in Netheredge, can you really spell out who had the conversation about the extension of that? In other words, was there a meeting at which the Director of Legal Services sat down with the Cabinet and politically discussed whether to take that injunction forward? Because I think, as a Labour Party member, as a socialist, that discussion should be laid out to the party membership, and quite what was the political decision making that said, how do we build bridges with our communities? And I've lived in Netheredge for 40 years. Yeah. Is that I get the sense either that the Labour Party cabinet are not listening to their own members, because I'm conscious that Netheredge passed a pro-trees motion. I'm conscious that Crook's Labour Party were outside the court case 2 weeks ago. Yeah. In other words, we as grassroots Labour members are extraordinarily angry about this. Yeah. And either there is within the Labour Party leadership, and I mean at the highest level, there is still elements of that leadership seeking to publish anti-protesters, anti-tree letters in the local press, and that they are being allowed to do so as if they are speaking for the council as a whole. And in other words, there is an element within the Labour leadership who want to destroy this campaign, and either they're doing that, or, and I'm not sure what's worse, there's utter chaos and incompetence. Because I, as a Labour Party member, am looking at the decision-making process of people like Julie Doyle and thinking, how on earth could you make it any worse?
Yeah.
You couldn't make it any worse.
And then you do.
And the thing is that those of us on the left of this campaign have put up a lot of smoke about the fight against austerity and privatisation. And yet, what we get is a question of competence coming back all the time. And I'm thinking to myself, and I've got experience as a union shop steward of working within PFI contracts, that actually when the Liberals say that they could run it better, and could have run it better 2 or 3 years ago, that actually they're right.
Would have done, yeah.
And that and in other words, this is utter incompetence. And to make the claim, Lewis, that you're trying to build bridges, and then I saw Calvin at lunchtime, and he was bobbing up and down.
And to be fair,
I'm just appalled.
To be fair, I'll say, Councillor, I wasn't coming tonight. You know, I thought fair play. You're coming to talk to people. I don't really want to come and meet you with respect. But people did, and you came out, and I do think that's some sort of progress.
Yeah.
But this has come through people's door in the last hour. I mean, you've seen the division that this injunction has caused in the last year. You're extending it by 3 years.
See, to
3
me,
years. That seems to me that you've got a large felling programme there.
You said before the last court cases that about separation of powers, and it was a decision for the executive and the legal boss. And then when we got to the court, Justice Mills stopped all the proceedings while he made sure that it was politically directed and that Julie Dore had given her permission for it to go ahead. And she said she was more than happy for it to go ahead.
And if she hadn't been, it would have stopped.
If she had, and he's made it clear that if at that point she had said, no, we're prepared to, we're prepared to bury this in order to go forwards and try and find solutions, then that would have been great. But she didn't, and there was a meeting the day before, and it was decided at that meeting that they would go ahead. So who was running the council? Is it the Labour group? And is this the will of the Labour group?
And were you at that
meeting? Or
meeting?
are you just saying that we'll hide behind the officers and they can get on with it?
You did say you knew about this.
Who is it who's running
So when you say you knew about this, do you mean you're part of the decision?
Well,
do you want the people stood in front of you to go to prison? Because that's what this means.
I'm quite happy to answer these questions, but you might have to give me a moment to.
Yes.
So I'm sorry, but we're
Well, let him answer a few questions.
We realised 6 weeks ago and said, right, okay, let's all chill out and let's give the guy a chance. And now, the last 6 weeks, nothing's changed and things are worse.
Well, I don't think nothing's changed because we've still got a pause and we can still be moving forward. And I've said consistently that this is a process we're going to start this summer. It's not you don't resolve a 4-year dispute in a matter of weeks, and you can't unpick the components of that dispute in a matter of weeks either. And so you are entitled to your opinion about
It's not an opinion, believe me. I've sat in that court. Okay. It's not an opinion.
Well, you are entitled to your opinion that in the next 3 years there's going to be a mass felling programme.
Why this? This is from you, Councillor. This is from you.
Are you just about to contradict that?
This is from you.
In the rest of your sentence, yes. We may make that assumption, but you're going to say
this summer we're going to go through a process of compromise that will involve dialogue with residents and the communities in the affected streets, and it will involve the formal dialogue with campaign groups and interested parties who have asked for that. And out of that, we're looking for a compromise that will involve a serious compromise from the council and a serious compromise from Amy, and it might involve compromise from campaigners depending on views, but I have to say, based on the views that have been expressed to me so far, I think that won't be huge, because so far campaigners have said to me, dead, dying disease.
Well, do you think this helps?
Surely that would have been a compromise if he wasn't threatened with
injunction. If you'd have announced today that you weren't going to renew this injunction, we'd have come here in a totally different set of mind. Me and you now would have been walking around these streets, having a look at the trees and probably chatting, but we're not. We're stuck here talking about this. And that is your but it wasn't me, it wasn't my decision.
Could I ask a question before we move on? Is there anything you can do to stop this happening?
Because they've got to decide.
It's a simple question. Can I get an answer, please? Is there anything you can do to stop this happening now?
We're not in a position yet.
No, you personally. You personally.
I mean, there's a lot of questions. Some of which
is there anything?
Is
there anything you can do to stop this happening?
Well, I don't think we think we can stop this happening because. So to answer these questions, the decision of the council.
So you're not willing to answer my question.
The decision. I think with subtle legal questions, it's very important for us, face to face, and this is why I am very grateful, and I think as Annette says, it is very magnanimous, and part of the compromise I'm asking for from campaigners is that with everything that's gone on, we still try and have this conversation how difficult it is, and I do very much appreciate that. Part of the reason we need to speak to face to face is because some of these, well, I'll try my best, sir. If you give me a moment, I'll try my best.
You're waffling, man. You're waffling. Answer his question, please.
Well, indeed. And
and that can't wait.
let me get to this point.
You say
Thursday the 28th of June,
that can't
they've got
wait.
to give an undertaking by.
Yeah.
And that's
And
probably
I
any
would hope
time.
people take the undertakings because
Oh.
if you allow me to, if you would allow me to get through to this point.
Just a minute.
Go on.
I'm sorry.
Please go on.
Let Lewis finish, please.
Yeah.
Because there's been a lot of questions there.
Yeah.
Each one of the questions that have been asked by Annette or by Mark or by yourself or by others, each one of those questions is very important in piecing together this. And so that you're getting this from me rather than us reading it through the press third hand. The decision was taken. The decisions around legal cases are taken by the Council's Director of Legal and Governance as a trained lawyer who can judge the evidence in this.
Is that Gillian Duckworth?
No, it's Stephen Eccleston.
Well, the final decision is signed off by the Director of Legal and Governance. So, and
With
that's
no political.
That's
We already
Gillian
know that's
Duckworth.
not
True. We heard from the
Well,
judge
I mean,
established that it
with-
was duly
with
law's
respect,
decision.
Under oath. Under oath.
with respect, I can cover all of this.
Okay.
I need more than 15
Okay,
seconds.
sorry,
I
go on.
can cover this. The decision is made by the Director of Legal and Governance, and they seek a political view about our policy objectives, and then they seek to translate that into what legal action might
Just
be
say
required.
that last little bit again. They seek a what?
They seek, there is an input from us around
Yeah.
what are your policy
Yeah.
objectives and what
Right.
do you need to do as part
Right.
of that. And that's slightly distinct from the previous comments I made also were particularly around the question about the individual court cases. Did you take the decision? Do you have any influence into that? The answer to that is a categorical no. It's completely not up to us, and it's right, it's not up to us what individuals, against which individuals the council takes court action.
Can I
That's
just stop you a
evidence.
second, because my understanding is that you are not allowed to intervene in individual cases,
Yeah.
but you can set the policy.
Yes.
So you could set a policy that says we do not intend, we instruct you not to continue the injunction.
Yes, you can.
That's
we
the
could make a
policy bit.
submission that we think, and so what we have said, and I've put out a statement explaining this. What we have said is that it is our intention, our objective through this, is to get back to a point where we don't need an injunction, and that's what we're seeking. But we're not in that. And the opinion of our officers and our lawyers is we're not at the position yet. So when the injunction is up for renewal in July, we're not yet in a position where we can proceed without the
Right.
injunction, because of a very basic question on which we are quite clear, is we don't think it is right to intervene in a safety zone when you've got men at work. Or
We don't think it is right
So
to
can I
fell
just
healthy
can I
children.
just talk a bit
Well, and
about? Can I just say something about the time scale on here, because it says the council intends to make an application.
Yeah.
So it hasn't even made the application yet, but it's already requiring people by Thursday the 28th of June to sign an undertaking.
So we're basically
At the end of the injunction.
threatening them with massive costs if they don't agree,
It's
without
disgusting
without
behaviour.
them doing anything wrong, basically.
It makes me.
If you do not provide such an undertaking, the council seek legal costs. So
It's intimidation.
it is intimidation, and we've had 3 years of this.
It's bully boy
We've had
tactics.
people pulled out of the beds at stupid o'clock in the morning.
Yoga teachers.
Why do they?
He's a yoga teacher.
Are you supporting
A
this?
lovely, kind gentleman.
We
Oh,
don't.
no, you
No,
personally.
you.
Personally.
Are you supporting this action?
Yes, we are.
Right.
No, you.
No,
Are you
personally
supporting it?
We
this
take.
action?
We take.
No,
Are
you.
you?
Will you stop saying we?
He's a
and
politician,
say
you're not gonna get a straight
you.
answer from
What
him.
do you support?
Are you personally?
You.
So basically,
Very dodgy. There's a
You.
difference between we and you. Do you
I think
support
he's full
it?
of shit.
Making young
No, we're not.
So how do we want to proceed? How do we want to
I think we
proceed?
should do the wall, but I think there are lots of things here that are not resolved, and I'm just looking for my Labour Party card because if you are not prepared to say that you don't agree with that action, and I've held out some hope that you can change things, then I don't want to be in the Labour Party anymore.
Well,
and I will campaign against you.
We don't
I
agree.
will campaign against
We
you.
don't agree with. We don't want an injunction.
Well,
but I
don't
support
do it
this
then.
action.
Don't do it then.
Sorry,
So
if I don't want an apple, I don't go and get an apple.
Right.
If you don't want an injunction, why are you threatening people that they've got to sign things before you've even applied for it and you've announced your intention to apply for it? It's just not good
Well,
enough.
it's not a threat. It's quite straightforward. People have been
No,
offered
it's
an
not.
undertaking
It's
and they
not
can
good
take
enough.
up the undertaking.
That's not acceptable.
Oh, that's a
not
ridiculous thing for you to say, man.
You can't say that you don't really want something and then apply to the High Court for it.
Well, you can.
you see, that's
We
stupid
don't
to me.
want our city to be in a position where it's necessary. We don't want
It's our city
campaigners
as well,
to
Lewis.
be.
It's
It is
our
our
city,
city,
our
indeed.
streets and our
Exactly,
trees.
Ours.
which is why I'm here tonight.
Our city is now a laughing stock nationally and globally on account of these policies which you're pursuing.
Right.
And
So
that's what we're
don't
setting
tell
out
us
to
about,
change.
you know, you don't want our city.
Right.
The reputational damage that we've suffered is enormous.
No, just add a factual thing, Lewis. That the injunction actually, we retrospectively understand, was actually granted through Justice Fails on false information.
Yes.
On the false information about the number of trees to be felled. Yeah, completely. And at the time of the original injunction, lawyers for our side tried to point out that in fact the numbers of trees to be felled was going to be significantly higher. And I think, I can't remember the exact wording, but I think the judge said that this was exaggerated by protesters.
Yes, he did.
And
In
now
the realms of
actually,
fantasy or something.
Yeah.
well, yes, and therefore he took all this into account when he decided whether or not
Yeah.
to grant the injunction. Now, since then, quite some time, so many things are coming out now, mainly through FOIs, and we now know that that injunction was actually granted on false information. So I find it very interesting, the confidence which that letter seems to imply, the council are going into asking for a further extension, knowing full well that now campaigners and people, well, nationally know that that was originally granted under false pretences. So I'm actually staggered that this whole extension idea has come up. And I would imagine that the campaigners would have a very, very good case now to go to the court and highly contest this
And
extension.
more public money unnecessarily.
And wait,
£7 million you've wasted as a council.
So I mean, obviously,
Guys, well, I'm
we
going to propose.
disagree on that point.
I'm going to propose
And
that
maybe when it
we've
goes
made these
Can-
points
can
and
we-
we
I'm
ask for
not
some
sure-
things
I
in
don't think it is-
writing.
I'm not sure it is a fact.
Yeah,
It's a legally contested
Yeah,
point.
Mr. Billington
I think we
actually
need
did
have you got in mind?
output the
wrong
trees now
numbers.
as well, don't we?
Well, what have you got in mind?
I had in mind now that we would have a walk around this area and we'd make Lewis aware of the issues and what's happened and the history in this area and the issues that we have outstanding, which is not to detract from all that we've just said, because
Yes.
I can't believe.
I think
Yeah,
Lewis has
it's-
got the point.
Well, I think there's
You've
a
got the
second
point.
thing to say here, which is, you know, I don't mind you asking questions. I don't mind
But you don't
the strong
answer them.
feelings, but I think I'm also lined up to come to the Netheredge Trees meeting on Monday.
Yeah.
So that is actually, in some ways, you know, we haven't got through this
Are you
tonight.
definitely coming, by the way?
I think I am.
Right.
It's just to do with
Great.
if my meeting finishes on time. So we might not be able to get it through it now. Maybe sort of standing on the street and trying to get through some of these points. Maybe that would be better done on Monday. But the reason I want to look at the trees is I'm very keen on 2 points to get before I sit down and look at the concrete proposals that the Amy and the council have developed as a starting point for further dialogue. I want to come out and look at the trees with you to get an understanding of what they mean to you, both in community sense, but also get the naive view of what can you make sense of the proposals given the information that's been provided. Because my experience in Mersbrook and Healy is, I think there's more to be done around setting out the information and the choices that the council has been proposing.
On the trees themselves, are you taking expert opinion rather than Amy's opinion on the state of the trees?
Because
Because
every single
lots of us-
organisation involved with trees has been against the council.
Yeah.
Surely in the dead of night, you must wake up in a cold sweat and think, everybody else, are they wrong? And Billington and Co. right? Come on.
Well, I mean, the council and Amy and the council who check off and sign off all the tree proposals employ professional
don't keep
Who we don't
professional
trust.
records.
We don't
Records you
trust
can't
them.
accept.
Why will you not reveal this state of
They
affairs?
lied, consistently lied.
And they
100 millimetres in court.
Don't let him off the hook.
Can increase in its diameter, excuse me, by, what was it, 100 millimetres a year?
Yes.
Use diameter with girth, which is a huge mistake. And if he's basing decisions on such an ill-informed piece of information, he had the cheek to tell me in a meeting when I said that a mature tree hardly increases in girth each year, which is absolutely true.
Yeah.
I have spoken to experts about it, they will all confirm that. He had the cheek to say to me that that was a matter of opinion. As if my opinion is worth less than his ill-informed opinion. In fact, my well-informed opinion was worth less than his ill-informed and prejudiced
And councillors have
opinion.
told me
He doesn't know what he's talking
that
about.
little tree
And he
is
makes
taking it
decisions on a basis of ignorance. And that is what is making people so angry. Because experts from across the world, literally, are queuing up to point out the flawed reasoning, the lack of knowledge, the sheer ignorance on which these decisions are based. That is why we're so angry, and I'm really sorry to burst into this
Don't be sorry.
No, but, you know, that's what's going on here. And I see this going on day after day after day. And when you come and see the trees, and I'm very glad that you have, because as far as I'm aware, you're the first person who's bothered to do that. You will see what a nonsense it is, and that we are seeing every day on our streets, in our neighbourhood, trees being taken down for pathetic reasons, like,
We bought our houses because of the trees here.
Mr.
We don't want to see you buggers knock them down.
That amount of curb displacement is dangerous to cyclists, and he spoke as a cyclist, fair enough. No cyclists cycle so close to the curb. You'd be off it in reason. It's rubbish, it's nonsense, and this is the sort of thing that we're up against day to day. And they treat us as if we're, you know, just the public. You know, what do we know? We know a lot more about trees, and certainly about what is going on these streets, than the people in the town hall.
and lots of the councillors.
Mr. Billington, you get one word.
And I'm so sorry, everybody.
That's fine.
I'm sure none of you have seen me go off like that before. It's not me.
2012, it was coming round 4 years.
No, I liked it.
I don't know who it was. Who was it in 2012 that did a survey?
Elliot.
Elliot. It was 2008. I spoke to him about the tree next door to my house. He said it's not going anywhere, it's perfectly healthy, the damage is mendable. Next thing, it's gone. The whole street was stripped.
Which road are you on?
Every single
The
tree
whole
gone.
street was stripped.
The last part of the contract that was released to us through an FOI said that they must not remove every single tree from a road. They've done it over and over again.
And it was like an invading army.
Are you not monitoring it? It's self-monitoring.
Yeah. I mean, you're
I wouldn't
spending millions of pounds
self-monitor
of taxpayers'
plumber
money
changing my
and you're not
washing
checking
machine.
it.
Well, it is self-monitoring on the day-to-day, and the council has a team who do the quality assurance.
They've got experts.
But why
Yeah, they have
Really?
professionals.
And you check the quality of the tarmac through which
Weeds
are now growing.
Yeah.
Pretty good experts there, aren't they?
Hundreds of people have complained about it and has been ignored. People from Tinsley, people from across the city have complained about the quality of the tarmac and how slippery it gets in Frosty.
I mean, they'll deal with the weeds with the weed kit. I mean, what sort of a response is that?
I mean, basically, with Amy, you've got a load of flyballs who've already been kicked out of several councils, quite rightly, and for some reason, Sheffield doesn't want to kick them out of here. I mean, I think that it's great that you're here, but really there's only one person we need to talk to, and she runs away every time, even from TV cameras. Julie Dawn.
I'm here.
She's the one. She's made it personal.
I'm here on behalf of Julie Dawn, and everything I say is within the policy that I'm in dialogue with Julie about. So
I'm going to suggest
you can take what I say as the I am the council's,
because I know there are people who want to talk about specific trees.
I'm the lead spokesman for the council on matters within my portfolio. So in answer to my question about when you see letters in the Star and stuff like that,
two things out and then up towards
well, I hope you're a lot more honest than
Can I just clarify what you're saying? Are you saying you're the spokesman? So you're not a policy maker?
Well, I am also a policy maker.
But
hairs there.
But
what I'm saying is when I am putting across what our policy is as the Labour administration of Sheffield City Council. So I mean, maybe others you might see letters and other things saying other things.
So you are a policy maker. You can change things.
Well, it's on the cabinet.
Yeah.
Depends how much control they have.
Okay.
One thing that would really help is if you could formally put it through the Star that the pause in felling has been brought about because of the negotiations that are going on now, not because of the fabled violence of the protesters, which Justice Mayles indicated in his report on Paul Brooks today, was in one particular incident, punches thrown by Acorn operatives and security guards. There is no extant evidence that any of the protesters have been involved in any violence.
Right.
With all of the support of the police, with all of the security cameras, all that intrusive surveillance, absolutely no evidence whatsoever has come to light. So please retract that or stand tarred at the same brush as Liar Blodge.
Right.
And also on uncorroborated truths, you, I believe, said today or yesterday that £830,000 of public money spent on the ITP fiasco was justified because a High Court judge had said it was. And the High Court judge just defined the legality. It's not illegal to have an ITP, it's not illegal to waste taxpayers' money, but it's politically foolish, and it's foolish of you to back that.
I mean, that's a fair distinction between it was a legal process, it stacked up legally. Well, I think the ITP, to say it in a word, if it had worked, we might be in a much better place.
It was so poorly designed, and it was only ever intended as a smoke. But if you get a proper academic, statistician, researcher, someone who does surveys properly, balanced, fairly, they will completely rubbish the methodology of that. In fact, they have. We've had it done at the university.
That's my train. I make a decision about it. We should have a citywide policy. We used to have a citywide policy. The website used to say things like reduction in light levels, bird poo on your car, leaves falling in autumn. All these are not adequate reasons for getting rid of the tree. Yeah, but it's not happening.
So that's why people.
So you've got a policy, but that's not what you're doing. You're not implementing that policy.
Actually, I think we'll be able to show you examples of this around here if we get to.
People are being allowed to design the way to the tree. And that's not my tree. It's near my house. It's not my tree. When I walk up Kenwood Park Road, I don't think, oh well, these are somebody else's trees, I can't enjoy these. They're all our trees. Yeah. They all contribute to our environment, our mental and physical health. I live in that house. That's one of the worst roads in Sheffield. Those 3 trees, 1, 2, 3, filter all the noise and give me oxygen. That tree I've stood under to stop people cutting it down. And I've been body barged by neighbours I have been friends with for 30 years. And the social cohesion on this road has completely evaporated. I've had blokes as big bashing me about and swearing at me. That's what you've released.
And this is what we need to move on from.
And that tree is supposed to be displacing the curb. Well,
should we go to that tree? We'll be here forever.